The first tragedy. It all begins at Camp Crystal Lake, a peaceful place hiding an old secret. Years earlier in 1957, a boy named Jason Voorhees, born with deformities and constantly blind, drowned in the lake while the camp counselors were distracted. His body was never found. In 1980, a new group of young people arrives, eager to reopen the camp. But what was supposed to be the start of a perfect summer quickly turns into a nightmare. One by one, the counselors start disappearing. The killer? Pamela Voorhees, Jason's mother. She worked at the camp when her son died and never recovered. Her mind shattered by trauma, Pamela began hearing Jason's voice echoing in her head.
Kill her, Mommy! Kill her!
Driven by vengeance, she believes everyone must pay for the negligence that took her child's life. And so, one by one, she kills them all. But one girl survives, Alice Hardy. Alone, she faces Pamela in a brutal fight by the lake, defending herself and decapitating the killer with her own machete. Everything seems over. The lake goes silent once again. But in the final scene, Jason Voorhees is born, not yet as a killer, but as a presence. The return. 5 years have passed since the Crystal Lake massacre. Alice Hardy, the sole survivor, is desperately trying to rebuild her life. But she's still haunted by nightmares and by Pamela Voorhees' head. And then, in the very first minutes of the sequel, the impossible happens. When Alice opens the fridge, she sees Pamela's head staring right back at her. Before she can even scream, an ice pick pierces through her temple. Jason Voorhees is back, and he wants revenge. The camp has been reopened nearby, now called Packanack Lodge. A new group of counselors arrives, full of energy, ready for summer fun. But the evil of Crystal Lake doesn't stay buried for long. Jason is now a grown man, strong, disfigured, living deep in the forest. This version of Jason doesn't wear the iconic hockey mask yet. He hides his face with a burlap sack, a single hole cut for his right eye, and wears torn, mud-stained overalls and a ripped plaid shirt. He kills with whatever he can find: axes, spears, hammers, machetes, even barbed wire. In the end, Jason faces Ginny Field, a clever child psychology student and the sharpest of the group. She discovers a makeshift altar where he keeps Pamela's mummified head. That's when everything becomes clear. Jason lives entirely for his mother, still hearing her voice inside his mind, still obeying orders she never gave.
Jason, Mother is talking to you!
Jason, Mother is talking to you.
Ginny uses this against him, putting on Pamela's bloody sweater. For a brief moment, the monster hesitates, but the illusion doesn't last. When Ginny is forced to reveal the trick, the fight explodes. Jason is struck with his own machete, and Ginny and Paul flee in panic, believing it's finally over. But then, in the final scene, Jason bursts through the window, maskless, revealing his deformed face. The hockey mask. Once again, the sun rises over Crystal Lake. Among the calm waters and pine trees, we see that Jason Voorhees survived. He stumbles through the woods, wounded but alive. Nearby, a new group of teens arrives at a cabin near the lake, ready for a weekend of laughter, flirting, and summer fun. But Jason is there, watching from the shadows. He strikes when no one expects it. But what used to be a feral, impulsive killer has evolved. Now he's a methodical hunter, moving with deadly precision. Jason becomes the ultimate slasher predator. And this is where everything changes. During one chase, Jason bursts into a barn and finds hockey gear left behind by Shelly, a prankster who used the mask to scare his friends. At that moment, one of the most iconic images in horror history is born. From now on, Jason Voorhees isn't just a killer. He's a legend. But this film doesn't just mark the birth of an icon. It also begins Jason's physical transformation. He's stronger, bulkier, almost superhuman. His attacks are heavier and his body seems resistant to pain. It's as if the mask awakened something inside him. In the final showdown, he faces Chris Higgins, a young woman haunted by childhood trauma from a previous encounter with Jason. In one desperate act of survival, Chris buries a hatchet in Jason's skull, the blade wedged between his mask and head. He stumbles and falls, seemingly dead, at least for now. The death of Jason. The story picks up exactly where the last film left off. Police arrive at the barn. The bloody hockey mask still lies on the ground. Jason's lifeless body, split open by the hatchet, is taken to the morgue. The coroner jokes as he inspects the corpse, while a nurse watches aerobics on TV. But, as always, Jason isn't truly dead. He suddenly awakens, kills both of them, and escapes. And so the legend of Crystal Lake continues. This time, the setting is a country house near the lake, rented by a group of carefree teens looking for fun. Next door lives the Jarvis family, a widowed mother, her teenage daughter Trish, and 12-year-old Tommy, a kid obsessed with horror and makeup effects. While the teens party, Jason approaches through the woods. One by one they fall, their deaths more brutal and creative than ever. A young man's skull crushed against a shower wall. A girl stabbed through an inflatable raft as she floats on the lake. Jason looks more decayed now, filthy, heavier, his clothes torn and rotten. The hatchet wound still splits his head. But while everyone runs in terror, young Tommy observes, studying Jason like a creature to be understood. He realizes something no one else does. Jason is still human. A monster, yes, but not invincible. Humans can be fooled. In the climax, Jason storms into the Jarvis house. Trish tries to protect her brother, but nothing stops him. Until Tommy appears at the door.
Jason! Jason!
Jason freezes for a second, confused. Trish seizes the chance and attacks from behind. Jason drops to his knees, dazed. Tommy grabs the machete and finishes the job, hacking Jason over and over in a fit of rage. But the horror isn't over. When Trish pulls Tommy away, he keeps striking, long after Jason stops moving. Later, at the hospital, she hugs him, but Tommy just stares blankly into space, his innocence gone forever. The impostor. In this chapter, Jason Voorhees doesn't evolve, and in fact, he's not even truly in it. After the bloody events of the final chapter, Jason remains dead and buried. Young Tommy Jarvis, still traumatized, is sent to Pinehurst, a rehabilitation center. He tries to move on, but memories of that night haunt him relentlessly. Then, the murders start again. Everyone believes Jason has returned, but the truth is something else entirely. In the final showdown, Tommy discovers the killer isn't Jason Voorhees. It's Roy Burns, a local paramedic who snapped after finding his own son brutally murdered, one of the first victims. Overcome with grief and rage, Roy assumed Jason's identity, wearing the mask, copying his methods, keeping the legend alive through imitation. The monster reborn. This time, Tommy Jarvis returns to Crystal Lake, but not for peace. He's obsessed, determined to destroy Jason Voorhees once and for all. He wants proof that the monster is truly gone. Accompanied by his friend Alan Hawes, Tommy digs up Jason's decayed coffin and sees the corpse inside. But seeing isn't enough. He grabs a metal rod and drives it through Jason's chest to make sure he'll never rise again. But fate has other plans. A bolt of lightning hits the rod, and the impossible happens. Electricity surges through Jason's body, resurrecting him. Alan attacks, but Jason kills him instantly with the same rod that brought him back. Tommy flees in panic, but it's too late. Jason Voorhees lives again, stronger than ever, now truly immortal. Meanwhile, authorities try to erase the past by renaming the cursed camp Camp Forest Green, hoping to attract tourists. But changing the name doesn't change fate. Another group of counselors and kids arrives for summer, and Jason stalks them from the woods, his clothes shredded, soaked in mud and blood. The killings resume, more vicious than ever. Haunted by guilt, Tommy realizes he must finish what he started. He studies the camp's history, searching for Jason's weakness. Then it hits him. Jason drowned in 1957. The lake that killed him once might be his only prison. In the stormy finale, Tommy lures Jason onto a boat.
That's it! Come on, maggot head! Come on!
He wraps a heavy chain around Jason's neck, anchoring it to a massive boulder. With one final effort, he pushes Jason into the water. Jason sinks to the bottom, eyes wide open, staring upward through the murky depths. Still alive, still watching. The New Blood. Years after the events of Jason Lives, a little girl named Tina Shepard arrives at Crystal Lake with her parents. But Tina isn't like other kids. She carries inside her a strange gift and a curse she never asked for. During a violent argument between her parents, Tina runs to the pier. Her father follows, trying to calm her, but the girl is panicked, out of control, furious. And then the worst happens.
Hate you! I wish you were dead! I wish you were dead! Daddy?
He drowns right before his daughter's horrified eyes. Tina didn't use her hands, she used her mind. Years later, now a teenager, She returns to Crystal Lake with her mother and Dr. Cruz, a psychiatrist studying her telekinetic powers. He promises to help her control the gift and overcome the guilt that has consumed her since childhood. In a moment of emotional despair by the water, Tina closes her eyes and pleads silently.
I'm sorry, Daddy. I wish I could bring you back.
The chains binding Jason begin to rattle, then snap. And what rises from the dark water isn't her father. It's something far worse. The body is in advanced decomposition. The clothes are shredded, held together by strips of rotten leather. The spine is exposed, the mask is split down the middle, partly revealing the deformed skull beneath, and in his chest, still lodged, the hook from the chain that kept him at the bottom of the lake. This isn't the Jason from the early films. This is the ultimate undead Jason, driven only by ancient rage and a killing instinct. Meanwhile, a new group of teens gathers at a nearby cabin for a surprise party. Jason wastes no time. He starts killing again. Each death is a brutal reminder of what he's become, an unstoppable machine of destruction. But the real showdown is still to come. When Jason finally bursts into the house, Tina reacts on instinct. For the first time in the franchise, someone matches him, not with brute force or weapons, but with the power of the mind. Tina hits him with telekinesis. Floorboards rip up and smash into him. Couches fly, flames erupt around him. Each attack slows him for seconds, but nothing stops him. In the climax, with Jason about to kill her, Tina closes her eyes and makes one last mental plea to her dead father. He grabs Jason from behind and drags him back into the lake. Terror in New York. The evil sleeping in the depths of Crystal Lake doesn't rest for long. During a storm, an anchor snags a submerged power cable. Lightning strikes the line, and electricity surges through the water, hitting Jason's chained body directly. He revives once more. Jason rises from the lake and massacres a couple on a nearby boat. At dawn, he quietly boards a high school cruise, bound for New York City. For the first time, Jason leaves Crystal Lake behind, and the terror goes with him. Aboard the ship, Jason hunts. One by one, the students vanish. When the few survivors reach Manhattan, Jason comes ashore, stepping into an urban setting for the first time in the entire franchise. He appears on the streets of New York visibly transformed, his body swollen and darkened by decay, his mask cracked and yellowed, fused to the rotting face beneath. It's the soggiest, most decomposed Jason yet. He stalks the streets, storms the subway, slips through dark alleys. In a standoff with a gang, Jason slowly takes off the mask, revealing a grotesquely swollen, deformed, wound-covered face. The final confrontation happens in the Manhattan sewers. The survivors flee desperately through the dark tunnels. Cornered, Rennie, one of the last survivors, finds a drum of toxic waste. In panic, she opens it and throws the corrosive liquid directly into Jason's face. And for the first time in the franchise, he screams. His body starts to melt under the acid, and he still tries to finish his vengeance, but a sudden flood slams into him. But we all know, that alone isn't enough to finish Jason. Jason goes to hell. In this film, the government finally tracks Jason down, and when they find him, they don't send cops. They send the FBI. That night, the plan seems simple. Lure him into a trap, surround him completely, and end it once and for all. A federal agent waits inside an abandoned cabin, feigning vulnerability. In the woods outside, dozens of snipers lie in silence. And then he appears. The hockey mask is fused to the decayed face, cracked and stained with decades-old blood. Jason charges without hesitation. Gunfire erupts, but he keeps walking, like nothing can stop him, until... His body explodes. Jason Voorhees is literally blown to pieces. Agents cheer, relieved, certain it's finally over. They have no idea what's about to happen. At the morgue, the coroner examines the charred remains. Among the burned fragments, he finds something impossible. The heart. It seems to beat harder and harder, like it's alive, calling to him. Overcome by an inexplicable compulsion, the coroner eats the heart. From that moment on, Jason Voorhees ceases to exist as a physical body. He becomes something far worse, a parasitic spirit that jumps from host to host. Each possessed person inherits his superhuman strength, ancient rage, and killer instinct. The possessed coroner murders, then Jason finds a new body, and another, and another. No more mask, no recognizable body, just pure evil leaping from victim to victim. But Jason isn't killing aimlessly, he's searching for something. The investigation uncovers a truth buried for decades. Jason can only fully return to physical form by possessing someone of his own blood, and that person exists. Jessica Kimball, his niece, direct descendant of the cursed Voorhees line. She has a young daughter, Stephanie, who also carries the blood. The goal now is to protect Jessica and stop Jason before it's too late. But nothing stops Jason Voorhees. He possesses anyone in his path, leaving a bloody trail toward his one chance at resurrection. When he finally takes over a body from the Voorhees bloodline and begins the twisted rebirth ritual, he returns more grotesque than ever. The mask fused straight into flesh, strands of hair glued to the skull, the entire body pulsing with open scars. He's back, in flesh, bone, and fury. The final battle takes place in the old abandoned Voorhees house, where it all began decades ago. Jessica faces her monstrous uncle armed with a mystical dagger, the only weapon that can permanently destroy the evil spirit animating him. When the enchanted blade finally pierces Jason's heart, something supernatural happens. He's dragged downward, claws scraping desperately at the floor. The earth seals over him with a thunderous slam. Jason Voorhees, finally taken where he always belonged, but only for a moment. When nightmare meets death, we know hell has a new resident. Meanwhile, in the warped world of dreams, another demon is starving. Freddy Krueger, the killer who murders through nightmares, has been forgotten. The people of Springwood stopped fearing his name, erased his memory, buried his legend, and without fear, he has no power. Freddy needs terror back on the streets, but to do that, he needs someone who can kill and scare for him. That's when he finds the perfect solution: Jason Voorhees. Freddy invades the sleeping mind of the monster and disguises himself as the only person Jason loved.
Jason, my special boy.
Jason awakens, more imposing than ever. The hockey mask is larger now, yellowed by time, cracked all over. Exposed skin is ashen and burned, as if still marked by hell. He wears a dark, heavy coat soaked with mud. He's slower this time, but absolutely relentless. Freddy thought he could use Jason as a simple instrument of fear, but what he dragged up from the depths, no one controls. In quiet Springwood, teens start dying again, but these deaths don't happen in dreams, they're brutally real. Everyone assumes Freddy has returned. Freddy's plan works perfectly, except for one problem he didn't foresee. Jason won't stop killing. He slaughters everyone in his path, even the victims Freddy had carefully chosen for dream kills. Freddy realizes he didn't resurrect an obedient ally. He unleashed an uncontrollable enemy. The showdown is inevitable. When Freddy finally attacks Jason inside his nightmares, expecting to dominate him on home turf, he discovers the impossible. Jason feels no fear. He feels nothing. No pain, guilt, remorse, or human emotion. Freddy taunts him, mocking his mother's death, twisting visions of the drowning. Freddy's dreamscape morphs instantly into a brutal war zone. The epic battle rips through both worlds, from warped sleep to the real Crystal Lake. Freddy uses every trick, reshaping the environment, multiplying himself, spawning terrifying illusions. Jason just keeps charging, tearing everything apart. In the real world, the fight rages on. Freddy seems to have the upper hand with agility and tricks, but Jason doesn't die. No matter how many times he's hit, he gets back up. In an explosive final clash, Freddy is slammed by Jason's machete. Both plunge into the dark water in a massive blast. Silence at last. The survivors stare from the shore, exhausted and wounded. And then, at dawn, a figure slowly rises from the murky lake. It's Jason, staggering, covered in deep wounds, breathing hard, and in his right hand, held like a macabre trophy, Freddy Krueger's head. The monster of the future. Decades have crawled by since the bloodbaths of Crystal Lake, but Jason Voorhees' body remains intact, preserved, frozen, inside a maximum security military facility. Scientists watch him through bulletproof glass. They tried everything to destroy him. Nothing worked. So they made the only choice left: keep him imprisoned forever. During a desperate attempt to transfer him to a safer site, Jason awakens. Within minutes, he butchers anyone in his way. Before he can escape, scientist Rowan triggers a massive liquid nitrogen purge. The freezing gas floods the room instantly. Jason lumbers toward her with the machete raised, but the extreme cold catches him. His body crystallizes in seconds, turning him into an ice statue. Rowan is frozen too, sacrificing herself to trap the monster. The site is sealed and abandoned. Decades turn into centuries. Earth eventually becomes uninhabitable, poisoned and ruined, so humanity flees to the stars. In the year 2455, a team of students on a space research mission explores the devastated planet. They discover the ancient facility buried under rubble and find 2 bodies perfectly preserved in ice. Thrilled by the historic find, they bring both aboard the starship Grendel for study. The ship's doctors revive Rowan with advanced tech, but they should never have done the same with Jason. The ship's systems automatically thaw his body. Cracked, burned flesh begins to knit together, and then he opens his eyes. Within minutes, the confident crew learns what time itself couldn't erase. Jason Voorhees does not die. The Grendel is packed with advanced tech, trained soldiers, cutting-edge weapons. None of it matters when Jason starts hunting. Even centuries in the future, death is still his specialty. The crew fights back with everything they have. Every weapon fails. In desperation, the scientists attempt a risky experiment with medical nanobots. Yeah, and a tech designed to rebuild damaged human tissue. They hope the nanobots will destroy Jason from the inside out. It backfires. Microscopic machines swarm, then fix Jason. What emerges isn't human. The nanobots replace rotted flesh with advanced alloys. The hockey mask is reforged, the entire body reinforced with armored plating. Jason is reborn, not a decayed zombie anymore, but an unstoppable killing machine. The new Jason Voorhees. Decades after the first massacres, the legend returns in a full-on reimagining, just as brutal as ever. Around Old Crystal Lake, silence rules again, but evil still breathes in the shadows. A group of young campers gathers around a bonfire. They laugh, drink, and mock the old stories. Say it's all just a legend to scare tourists. They're hunting for a hidden grow in the woods. What they find is Jason Voorhees' territory. Within minutes, the clearing becomes a slaughter ground. But something's different. Jason isn't the slow, lumbering corpse from the later films. He moves like a true hunter. Fast, silent, precise. 6 weeks later, a new crew of wealthy friends rolls into the area, chasing a weekend of partying by the lake. They have no idea a recent massacre happened there. At the same time, Clay Miller, a stubborn loner, scours the region for his missing sister, Whitney, one of the previous victims. But Whitney isn't dead. Jason kept her alive. In his broken mind, she resembles Pamela Voorhees, his mother, so she becomes his prisoner. Here's the key detail. In this reboot, Jason never actually died. He survived the childhood drowning, grew up hidden in the woods, and saw, with his own eyes, his mother's death. In that instant, the deformed boy vanished, and the predator was born. For decades, Jason lived in isolation, turning the forest into his home and his hunting ground. He built a system of tunnels running beneath the entire Crystal Lake area. Every inch of terrain is mapped inside Jason's obsessive mind. This new Jason is mortally human, yet he operates with the efficiency and brutality of a force of nature. His attacks aren't random anymore. He watches, waits, and strikes at the exact moment. Still covering his face with a filthy burlap sack, he hides in the shadows until fate puts him in front of a relic from the past, an old hockey mask, abandoned and dusty in a decrepit cabin. In that moment, the myth awakens again. One by one, the kids are hunted down. Clay finally finds Whitney alive in the tunnels, but escaping is nearly impossible. In the final showdown, Whitney tries the only trick that might work. She calls him Jason, echoing his mother's calm voice. For a brief second, the monster hesitates, but this version of Jason knows no mercy. He lunges in blind fury. Clay chains him up, dragging him into a rusted farm machine. Jason is pulled in until the noise stops. At sunrise, Clay and Whitney haul the body to the shore. Exhausted, they stand at the water's edge. But then... and that's Jason's last appearance in the movies. On screen, there's a video where we show horror films where evil wins in the end. Click and watch. See you there.